In this video, we will be discussing the most common punctuation question on the ACT, which are semicolons. So, there are only 3 rules that you should know about semicolons for the ACT. Let's begin with the first rule, which is using a semicolon to connect 2 ICs that are related in meaning without any connecting words or fanboys. An IC stands for an independent clause that is, in other words, just a complete sentence. It has a subject and a verb, and it expresses a complete thought. So you need to make sure that they have 2 ICs and that it's related in meaning. So for example, you can't have the sentence, I love pizza, semicolon, cats are cute. Even though we have 2 ICs in this case, they actually share no relationship. They're not related in meaning at all. Therefore, you cannot use a semicolon to connect these 2 ICs. You would just need a period. So remember that they should have some sort of relationship or share some connection between each other. Alright, so let's look at an example that we have here, which is some students see the merits of living at home. They enjoy not having to cook or do their own laundry. Okay, so I have this part over here. Some students see the merits of living at home. Some students being the subject and see being the verb, which I know is an IC, comma, and then another IC over here. Okay, they being the subject and enjoy being the verb. So we have the structure IC, comma, IC. Okay, when 2 ICs are connected by a comma, it is known as a comma splice. This is one of the errors that you might find on the ACT. A lot of students think that splice means to split up because it kind of sounds like slice, but it actually means to join. Okay, so this is one type of error where you have one complete sentence and another complete sentence joined together by a comma and not a period. So in other words, it's a run-on sentence. In this case, if we wanted to fix this sentence, we would just simply change this comma into a semicolon so that we can separate the 2 ICs. Let's take a look at another example. Here we have Susie lives in downtown Toronto, semicolon, she lives in the distillery district. So first, let's try to determine the sentence structure of this sentence. So here we have Susie lives in downtown Toronto. Susie is the subject, lives is the verb. So we have IC, semicolon, she lives in the distillery district. We have subject here, she, verb lives, and we have an IC over here. So we have IC, semicolon, IC. So in both of these examples, because we have 2 complete sentences, technically it would still be acceptable to just take the semicolon out and replace it with a period. But fortunately, the ACT won't be that mean, and they will never ask you to choose between a semicolon and a period. Let's take a look at an example. Here we have the Johnson family decided to go to Mexico for Christmas. They really needed some time to relax. Okay, right away what I want to do is I want to identify the sentence structure to make sure that everything is used correctly. The only punctuation that I notice in this sentence is the comma. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify the sentence structure to see if the comma is used correctly. So the first part, I have the Johnson family decided to go to Mexico for Christmas. The Johnson family is the subject and decided is the verb. So I know that this is an IC, an independent clause. So I have the comma and then I want to see what comes after, which is they really needed some time to relax. They, referring to the Johnson family, is the subject, and then needed is the verb. So I have another IC or independent clause over here. So the structure, the sentence structure for option A is IC, which, if you remember, is an error. It's called a comma splice, where splice means to join and not to split. So in other words, it's a run-on sentence because 2 complete sentences are joined together without a period. So I know that option A is incorrect. So I'm going to eliminate option A. I'm going to use what I found out in option A to help me save time in answering this question. So in order to solve the problem of a comma splice, I know that I either need to put a period in between the two, or I need a semicolon. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look through the options for either this period or this semicolon separating the two clauses. So the first one, I have a comma and a comma, but no period or semicolon, so I'm going to eliminate option B. And then in option C, there's nothing in between the two independent clauses, which would still make the sentence a run-on sentence. So I know I can eliminate option C. And then in option D, I have the semicolon in between the two ICs. So the only difference between this and this is that when you're using the semicolon, the two independent clauses must share a relationship, or they must have some sort of connection in meaning. So because the second part of the sentence is still talking about the Johnson family, I know that the option with the semicolon has to be the correct answer. So the answer is D.